Well, we've been talking about victory after victory for the good guys in the public eye. And those victories are coming in the form of the bad guys finally being exposed to the public eye. A lot of this stuff isn't news to you. A lot of this stuff is to the watchers here. It's just going to be, small updates. But let me stress, all of the things I've been showing you have been already viewed in extraordinarily public forums by regular folks. Man, that is good. That is good news. The White House Correspondents' Dinner bringing up the Dominion suit. Oh. Mehdi Hassan putting it out on Twitter. A whole Reddit community dedicated just pointing out the hypocrisy of right-wingers who are daring to call trans people kitty diddlers when their community is just overflowing with people that do that, with that as a serious problem that should probably be addressed. I mean, we should genuinely look at the fact that there's a ton of church leaders that are just out there looking for an excuse to do this. But all of this is to say that the whole world is waking up to what poison the modern conservatives believe. It's really not even, it's not even accurate to call them conservatives. I don't know why I still do that. They're not. This political wing that believes in corruption as its guiding principle. Well, Fox, to tie into our first segment, recently lost the better part of $1 billion to Dominion. They're being sued for even more by another company. Let's look at how that's going to go for them. We have a little preview here.
Eric Connolly, welcome to 7:30.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Nice to talk to you.
Were you
By the way, thanks to Saint-Laurent for the suggestion.
surprised when the Fox Dominion case settled?
I was not surprised that it settled. It looked like they were heading in that direction, and it's the kind of case and it's the kind of evidence that was coming out that I could not imagine Fox News and Fox Corporation wanting that to be aired more in public than it had already been aired.
What type of evidence do you think they were afraid of?
You saw a hint of it. So in our proceedings, you were able to get from Dominion some of the evidence, some of the emails, some of the text messages that painted a pretty damning picture of what was going on at Fox News and at Fox Corporation. When you get to the trial, everything gets rehashed again, and even more gets put on stage, and you have your witnesses having to come in live to testify. That, I suspect, was an unpleasant scenario for.
Absolutely. Can't wait to enjoy that a little bit more. I do want to bring in one thing. Deanna Dean, you said hello from Australia. I would love your take on what happened regarding gun laws in Australia. I'm talking about the cultural shift from your perspective, and I'm going to toss this to you. If you've got something, drop it in the comments. What happened with the culture that allowed Australia to get its gun problem under control during that mass shooting? And do you think Americans, who I think desperately need it right now, could take any lessons from that? Let me know what your thoughts are. I'll look for that on the other side of this.
Fox News and Fox Corp. So the settlement seemed very likely.
This is the statement you made after Fox settled the Dominion case. You said Dominion's litigation exposed some of the misconduct and damage caused by Fox's disinformation campaign. Smartmatic will expose the rest. What is the rest?
I think one of the most significant pieces that people have not paid enough attention to is the global damage that was done by this disinformation campaign. In the Dominion litigation, a lot of the focus was rightfully on the effect of this disinformation in the United States. And it absolutely sowed great distrust and a lot of animosity within the United States. It contributed to dividing the country here. But Smartmatic, it's a global enterprise. Smartmatic handles elections all over the world. And what Smartmatic has experienced is the effect that this disinformation had on the belief and trust in democracy all over the world. So one of the big differences between these two cases, and one of the things that Smartmatic will bring more to the light, is this isn't a problem just in the United States. This disinformation and how it undermined the trust in democracy had a real effect, a real negative effect on democracy and voting all over the world.
It is hard to overstate that. I've been waiting for somebody to go after Murdoch and his goons on a worldwide scale. I really, truly hope that lawsuits turn up in other countries against other Murdoch-owned businesses for this kind of thing. I think the template is being laid out, not just the template for how to win in court, but literally what to look for. These texts that have been pulled for one case, well, another case can request them as well, and so can another, and so can another. The court, generally speaking, around the world has a right to seek the truth. We should take advantage of that. This is a situation where if we all work together, we can all slay this dragon. And as many of us pine for more cinematic times, where slaying the dragon would involve couching a lance and charging across a grassy field, we are, sadly, in very uncinematic times, where it will involve tedious lawsuits. But nonetheless, the dragons burn in villages. We should team up. Around the world, there has got to be other parties that were harmed by Murdoch's corporations. Get in on this. Let's piggyback off the work done by other places that are chipping away at him. Good. We got the better part of $1 billion. Let's keep it going. Smartmatic's going at it as well. Great. Remember the News of the World? Remember that little rag run by Murdoch? How'd they get rid of him? An investigation. Bringing the truth to light. Ironically, the thing that will destroy this news conglomerate will be people learning the truth. That is done most often in a court of law. So if you are from not the United States, or if you're from the United States but you are aware of a company that might be able to sue Fox that isn't right now, now's a great time. They are weakened, and a lot of the work has been done for you already, like the work of multi-million-dollar, now billion-dollar companies. The work their lawyers did will make a regular country lawyer have an easier time of it. So really consider suing these monsters.
This is one of the most catastrophic events for a democracy and the belief in the integrity of elections that you could imagine.
Did Fox broadcast the same or similar lies as it did about Dominion, about Smartmatic, that it was engaged in a widespread conspiracy to steal the 2020 presidential election from Donald Trump?
They were identical lies. So what Fox published was twofold. One, Smartmatic and Dominion conspired together to rig the election. That was one of the main messages that they were trying to convey. And the second main message was Dominion machines using Smartmatic's software rigged the election and switched votes. So when you look at the defamation that was front and center in the Dominion case, that is the exact same defamation that is front and center in the Smartmatic case, and the evidence that you saw in the Dominion case demonstrating that Fox knew that wasn't true is the exact same evidence for us.
A lot of internal Fox communications came out.
I gotta say it. I think somebody, I think one of this guy's buddies bet him like $100 that he could say facts instead of Fox, or that he wouldn't say facts instead of Fox during this interview. Maddening.
During the Dominion trial, what did they show you about why Fox continued to promote the idea on air that the election was rigged?
It was an attempt to get their audience back. As was made public in what Dominion had filed, you saw a trend at Fox where after they made the Arizona call, they started to get pushback against their audience for making that call, which they got right, by the way, of course. But after that, there was a panic. And then after that panic about losing audience members, there was a switch in narrative where the company started to embrace this disinformation. And I think the Dominion filings and the evidence that Dominion put forward on that was very powerful. And obviously, that evidence is equally applicable for Smartmatic's case.
And for the sake of our audience, Fox was the first network in America to call the state of Arizona on election night for Joe Biden. And that was important because it stopped Trump's narrative that he was sweeping the election.
Correct. They got that right, at least.
One of the most important facts here is that Smartmatic played a very small role in the 2020 election. How significant is it that Fox ignored such a basic fact?
I have a situation of extraordinary recklessness on the part of a news organization. My client, Smartmatic, was in LA County. They provided election services during the 2020 election in LA County and LA County only. And yet somehow, under this narrative that Fox was spinning, we rigged a national election and we were switching votes in states and in jurisdictions where we weren't even participating. That is an extraordinary degree of recklessness. It takes about 1 minute on Google to figure out we weren't in any of those states that Fox was claiming we were switching votes in. So that is a whole other category of evidence that will come out in our case.
Will Rupert and Lachlan Murdoch be a part of your case?
Ooh, I'm going to keep y'all in suspense like I am, but I do want to say there's a channel called WTF Horror and Sci-Fi. I watch them sometimes to unwind on YouTube. This channel does horror and sci-fi stories. Unsurprisingly, it's a new animator, really just cutting their teeth, trying to get good. I'm sympathetic to that. And my point is, not just to plug this channel, although what the hell, why not? Head over, see if you like them. But my point is, man, they could call themselves a news channel, couldn't they? Really, anybody could just say, this is news, and then talk about anything at all. By our current definition, we honest to God, need to make there be obligations to the truth if you call yourself a news company. Just like you can't call yourself a cop when you're not a cop, to identify yourself falsely as a news company should come with harsher legal consequences than it does in the United States. Hey, if you're operating around the world and you don't have the Fox problem, tell us what is different about your country's setup. In the U.S., we need to know. We need a model to go off of, because the one we have clearly does not work.
So we have alleged claims against Fox Corporation as well as Fox News. And Rupert and Lachlan Murdoch, from our perspective, are front and center to the decision-making that was done at Fox Corporation that allowed and encouraged this type of disinformation. So we are obviously in an early stage of our litigation against Fox Corporation, but Rupert and Lachlan Murdoch are front and center for us.
How much do we know about their direct involvement?
There are definitely allegations that both Dominion has made and that Smartmatic has made that these two individuals were directing traffic here. And it's difficult to imagine something this sizable occurring at Fox News that was not getting the attention and the direction of the two principals for Fox Corporation.
Just for context, remember that Rupert Murdoch owned, what was it, like 130 papers around the world, or some obscene number, and all of them eventually supported the Iraq War. All of them. I think there was one holdout, but even that eventually caved. So yes, of course, Murdoch's, of course, the Murdochs have a hand in this. Obviously, I'm delighted to see they're being dragged in and are not going to be able to dodge responsibility here.
Calls your $2.7 billion US claim implausible. How do you reach such a large number when Smartmatic's role in the election was so small?
The damages in this case is a very simple exercise. What was the value of my company before this disinformation campaign took place? And what's the value of that company today as a result of that? And if you can think of something that is worse to say about an election technology company than they rig elections and they are designed to rig election, if you can think of something worse to say about a company like that, I'd love to hear it.
Boom.
Because nothing can do more damage to a company like Smartmatic than what these defendants said.
When you first filed your case against Fox, it was in the immediate aftermath of January 6, and the divisiveness caused by the big lie was obvious everywhere in the US. Is it any less significant now, 2 years later?
I think it's just as important, and I think it's getting worse. I mean, the confidence in elections has probably never been lower. People's concerns about the security of their vote has never been higher. It's a toxic environment that we have right now, and it hasn't been remedied. You still see situations where people are running away from election technology, thinking that there's a risk that their vote won't be counted. And if you want your vote counted, that's the best way to have your voting run. And so
Fox is in serious trouble. Here's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping that the shareholders get together and boot out the Murdochs and their 44% holdings. I don't know how plausible that is. I've never even been hired by a company that has, directly anyway, by a company that has so much corporate structure to it. But it seems to me like if I were a shareholder and my money was tied up in whether or not the company as a whole, there we are, loses money, I would insist that these people that are running it into the ground get kicked out. But the major victory here is not the money Fox will lose. That's great. That's a lovely little morsel we get. But it's not as important as the public knowledge that they are liars. That's the victory here. The fact that Fox News is not a news organization needs to get spread far and wide. And the fact that anything owned by the Murdochs cannot be trusted also needs to be spread far and wide. Let's see what the Wicked community has to say about this. But as the takeaway, just make sure everyone in your community understands the phrase Fox lies. Keep spreading that around. Every time you see a piece of news about what liars Fox are, what a lying, dishonest organization it is, share it on social media. Share it with your friends and family. Make sure the message gets out there. Fox lies. Let's see what you all have to say.